Hello, good evening. Welcome to the next episode of Better You by Ania series. Thank you for watching me. We are currently just waiting for my guest, Dr. Melina Roberts, to join us. Perfect. Hello, good evening, Melina. Usually it takes a little bit of time for the viewers to join, for the Facebook to notify people that we are live. However, we will start very soon, and then people of course can join, and of course a lot of people choose to watch video afterwards because evenings can be, hi Magda, one person has joined, evenings can be busy for some. I'm obviously in Europe, you are in Canada, so you on the other hand have people at work.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
First of all, Melina, I would like to thank you so much for this opportunity of speaking to you tonight. It's really fantastic. I know, we all know, you are a naturopathic doctor, and this is such an exciting field at the moment. So it will be great. It will be great for me. It will be great, I hope, for you and for our viewers to have a good discussion tonight. So I suggest we kick off, and then people join us as they are available. I will start with a quick introduction, then let you introduce yourself, and we move on to our topics and questions. So for those that don't know me, my name is Anna Iwanicka, and I'm a holistic health coach. I actually work exclusively with women. I've taken this decision because I am ex-corporate. I've seen women obviously maybe not struggling, I would say, sometimes struggling with their energy levels, with lifestyle, with keeping up with healthy diet and raising their kids and working. And I thought, I would like to help there. So that's what I decided to do. I also study naturopathy, so that's close to your heart. And currently, yes, I work with clients all over, really, because I work online mostly. However, for those, I'm currently based in Lisbon, so for those in Lisbon, I offer face-to-face sessions. But this is, and I would also like to mention that this series where Dr. Roberts is a guest today is something that I wanted to do to allow women and my fans to get an access to experts in health and well-being area. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing these interviews usually every couple of weeks. And this allows people to become aware what is available out there, apart from conventional medicine that we know is very needed, and it has its place in our lives. But sometimes our body needs this slightly maybe different approach, or perhaps a helping hand in getting better, not just by medications. So over to you, Melina. Once again, thank you for joining us. If you can please introduce
so much for having me.
And then we will kick off. Thank you.
Sorry. I can't hear you. We're just kind of losing connection.
Oh.
Did you ask a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I wonder what happened with the connection. So I just ask for you to introduce yourself, and then we will start.
Okay. I'm Dr. Melina Roberts. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I practice at Advanced Naturopathic Medical Center in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So it's the west side of Canada, so even further from Europe there. I've written a book called Building a Healthy Child, which just teaches parents how to introduce foods in a way that helps the child to build a healthy foundation of that microbiome right from the beginning, and so sets them up for good long-term health. What else? I'm also a connection to Europe in that I am also a lecturer for the Swiss Biomedicine Academy. So I've just been selected by Dr. Rao to do that, and so I'll be doing some lecturing all over North America for that academy. But really, my approach is what I specialize in. I specialize in something called biological medicine. So it's just, and it's a European approach, and it's just looking at the body just a little bit different than what you'll see in conventional medicine.
Fantastic. Sounds very interesting. If you don't mind posting a link to where one can buy your book in the comment section after our live, that would be great. Presumably it's available on Amazon, so maybe people would like to.
Yeah, it's available on wherever books are sold. Yeah.
Perfect. I will definitely look it up as well. It sounds really good. So I will move on to questions, and to our viewers and even those that are watching the video later, do obviously post comments and questions. We will be happy to answer them. So I would like to begin with, obviously, you are a naturopathic doctor, and to some it might sound a bit foreign. So if you can just very briefly describe and tell us what does it entail? What is a naturopathic doctor?
Yeah, I guess it's different from what Europe is, but basically we've done I've done an undergraduate degree at the University of Waterloo, and then I've done 4 years at a full-time at a naturopathic college, and it's accredited naturopathic colleges. There's only about 8 across North America, and then we write board exams in order to practice afterwards. So similar, or it's kind of similar education to medical doctors, but slightly different in that what our focus is on trying to uncover root causes of problems. So not just trying to suppress symptoms, we're trying to figure out why is a symptom occurring in the body. So that is, I'm going to say that's the essence of what we're doing, and it's just also the understanding that the body has this ability to be able to heal itself, and that there's substances within nature that work with the body that can work on helping to regain that balance.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So my next question was going to be about this difference between conventional medicine and naturopathic or biological medicine, but I guess you answered it. And as I hear this description very often, and it really helped me very quickly to understand the difference. And I like the phrase when they say that this function, because it's also functional medicine, right? So that it deals with the fire, not the smoke, right? Because I kind of like it. And when you said that it's exactly that it focuses on the symptoms and not, not so much on the symptoms only, but actually on root cause, and also enables the body to kind of fire this healing mechanisms, right?
Well, I think that, when we're doing that comparison of looking at conventional medicine and naturopathic medicine, conventional medicine, is really good at like acute medicine. Like if you get hit by a car, then that's where you want to go. You want to go to a hospital. You want to be seen by the conventional system, and in terms of surgery and acute care, conventional medicine is great at that. But then when you're looking at naturopathic medicine does a lot better at a wellness model, at a preventative model, and also at like chronic disease. So these problems that we've had for a long period of time, we want to uncover what's actually going on, because typically they're all multi-causal. It's not just one cause that we're affecting. And so usually there's not just one solution, and we're trying to uncover what all of those different causes are, why systems aren't working properly, and then try to get them all working as best they can.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yes, and this is something very important what you mentioned here, that conventional medicine is really good at dealing with acute problems, and I know it from my experience, from my family experience, that when it comes to chronic disease, to any sort of issues that are not acute issues. It's not a broken hand or not a heart attack. Conventional medicine seems to be struggling a little bit, or you know what I mean, like not dealing perhaps as well with this as. So again, I was going to dive in deeper into this. What is this functional, biological, naturopathic medicine good at? But you just described that, particularly, I guess, with chronic disease. This is where you would kind of turn to this sort of medicine, right? To help the body to enable itself to get better and to understand why what is happening is occurring.
Yeah, it's for the person who wants to really dig deep and know what's actually going on in their body, and then work through it in order to do the corrections. So the challenge is that, you know, our medicine is not a quick fix medicine. It's a process, and it takes some time, right? So it took some time for it to get out of balance, and it'll take some time for it to get back into balance. So, you know, patients have to be really patient with the process. And I always say, like, consistency also is an important part of the healing process.
Consistency, but also speaking to people, even to my clients, what I very often hear from them, and then when we start to, you know, talk a bit more around the topic, they kind of confirm, is that with conventional medicine, it's kind of, you know, you go to a doctor, you get a prescription, and as far as you being a patient is concerned, all you need to do is swallow the pills. Whilst with any sort of approach, different approach, like more functional medicine approach, the job is to be done by the patient. So the patient actually hears from the doctor, from functional medicine doctor, this is what you need to do, and then you have to go home and do these things. You cannot just take medication to get better. So, and sometimes people don't like it because it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like just taking a magic pill. It's that patients have to be proactive in terms of their health. Yeah, so that's definitely a different approach than a lot of people are used to.
Absolutely. So obviously, as I explained earlier, I work with women, and I dedicate my business and time to women. And this is why even in our chat today, I wanted to concentrate mostly on women's health. Yeah. And what we know about female body, and I'm not a doctor, but that's my view on female body, is that it's that more complex than male body, okay? Some call it more complicated as well. We stick to complex. So basically, we also hear, and I don't know, I have to admit, I'm not quite sure how it is in Canada, but in Europe, in the last year, probably year and a half, there has been a lot, and more than ever before, talk and publicity around hypothyroidism, about Hashimoto's, and actually many other autoimmune conditions. And from reading, from hearing, from, you know, just being aware of it, it seems like women are mostly affected by these conditions. And then we also know that, you know, these things don't happen in isolation. Then we have the adrenal glands that play a huge part in this. And then, of course, our female hormones get affected by this, by everything that is happening. So I realize again that this is a huge kind of block of a huge topic. But you know, I would like to ask you, because this would be, I wanted to make it kind of like the core block of our conversation today, for you to help us to you know, understand a little bit more about this. Why is it with women mainly? What is this thyroid doing? Why adrenals are suddenly also playing some sort of role, and how it impacts us, and what can we do to kind of you know, help ourselves, because we need to help ourselves. And quite frankly, taking just a pill, thyroid hormone is not resolving the rest.
Yeah, so we're seeing the same thing in North America. In Canada, we're noticing that there's definitely higher rates of thyroid dysfunction. And, I think that one of the challenges is that, in the conventional system, how they're trained is that they only look at this one parameter of the thyroid, which is the TSH. And so, and that thyroid stimulating hormone will fall within normal range. And then they're sent home told that their thyroid is normal, everything looks fine. You have no problems with your thyroid. So first of all, just because that TSH is within normal range doesn't necessarily mean that the thyroid is functioning properly. Because first of all, as naturopaths, we look at a really tight number instead of that big range. And then we also want to look at other factors. We want to look at free T3 and free T4. We want to look at reverse T3. We want to look at is there antibodies present? So I always recommend that we do a comprehensive assessment in terms of the thyroid, and that gives us a bigger picture of what's going on.
Let's maybe try to just repeat very quickly what you said, and then we will see how it goes. Because you were talking about, and here in Europe we have very same thing. So you go to a doctor and they do TSH, and not only TSH seems to be the only test that is being performed, but also the range is so huge. It's like from 0.5 to 5, you are considered healthy within a healthy range. So what I know this functional medicine is doing is looking at optimal value or optimum value rather than the
exactly. But we have it. Yeah, so we look at that blood work differently. We look at it because we're not just looking at those normal reference ranges. We look at what those ideal ranges are. So that's one component. You also want to look at temperature. You want to know what temperature is the body actually operating at, because that's what the thyroid is controlling. The thyroid is controlling the temperature of the body. So is the body slightly high or is it slightly low? That tells us, is that thyroid actually turning on, right? And then there's other components that we need to be addressing. You need to look at the body from that nutritional basis. Are you getting enough iodine? What are the selenium levels at? And then the other things that we, are play into the role of the thyroid is the liver function. The liver's where all the hormones are metabolized. If you have a congested liver, then that can be something that can be contributing to thyroid dysfunction. If you have a heavy metal load, cadmium specifically, which is a heavy metal that we get from cigarette smoke, and that's from smoking that cigarette or even being exposed to secondhand smoke. But that cadmium has been shown to interrupt that T4 to T3 conversion, which plays a big role in terms of that thyroid. We need to look at the nervous system, because the nervous system's like really that control center for the whole thyroid. So how well is that nervous system communicating and working? And so it really does stem from the brain. And if we have any disruptions in there, that can be affecting thyroid function. And another big component is adrenals. Adrenals and thyroid work really closely together. If one's not working at its best, the other one's like it's a backup plan. So if the adrenals are being drained, then it's going to bring down the function of the thyroid. So you always have to look at, okay, what is stressing the adrenals? And then you also need to work on what you need to do to boost up the function of the adrenals. And there's a number of things that can be stressing those adrenals. It can be from eating the wrong foods. It can be have chronic infections. It can be from toxic loads, heavy metals. There's also emotional components that can be stressing those adrenals. And the other part of it, and this is kind of my biological medicine twist on the thyroid, is that so we can be eating all the right foods and taking all the right supplements, but if we can't get those nutrients into the cells, then we can't get those cells to function well. So the blood work tells us about the circulating hormones, but it doesn't tell us what's actually happening inside the cells. So we also have to address that microenvironment. So there's a number of different components that can be affecting why the thyroid isn't functioning at optimal capacity.
Wow. Yes. So you see, this is why I have so much respect for this sort of approach, because again, as we mentioned with conventional medicine, and I talk to my clients all the time about this, they go and at best they get TSH and T4. And if T4 is good enough, again, very big range here, so I can, but if it's good enough, they are sent home and told everything is okay. What it's missed, what is missing there is that and you mentioned earlier, it's the conversion. T4 is inactive hormone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, exactly. It's inactive, and so we want to know, is it actually being converted into T3?
Exactly. And then again, there are supplements, but there is also food, as you mentioned, that we can work with, and that's what I do with my clients. We ensure that we get enough nutrients. But then another thing is, and that's where clients typically have this resilience almost, is that it's also not good enough just to eat the right nutrients. Your body needs to be able to absorb it. So if your gut lining is not healthy and it's not absorbing the nutrients, or if you suffer from autoimmune condition and you are having, usually people don't kind of tolerate dairy or gluten well, and you are upsetting your system with these things, then naturally you are not, you are eating maybe, I don't know, a lot of Brazil nuts, but you are still not getting enough selenium for that.
You're not absorbing nutrients from the food you're eating. Yeah, exactly. And so that's a component of it too, is that you, in order to balance hormones, we need to heal the gut. Yeah.
Precisely. So this thing, sorry, because there is a delay, so I don't mean to cut in. Please carry on.
Yeah, sorry, I just can probably talk about the gut nonstop, but some of those components of why the gut is so important to hormone balance is that when you have inflammation happening in the gut, that's another thing that would drain those adrenals and then drain that thyroid. Yeah, so the gut and hormone balance definitely are very interconnected. So one of the things is that if we're eating foods that are causing inflammation in the gut, one of the things that will happen is that it'll drain the adrenals, because you can think of the adrenals as trying to put out the fire, so trying to decrease that inflammation. And so as those adrenals are working really hard to take care of that inflammation, the adrenals get drained, and that will drain the function of the thyroid. And so there's very much interconnected there. And then the other component is that if there's inflammation in that digestive tract, then we can't properly absorb the nutrients from the foods we're eating. And if we're not properly absorbing those nutrients, then those nutrients can't be able to support our cells and support the function of that whole hormonal system.
So you touched upon something that is another thing that I really, really like and respect about functional medicine, is that you see the body as a whole system, and you see the body as you know, everything is interconnected. So as you said, one affects the other. It's not like in conventional medicine where one goes to the doctor with the thyroid, but also has liver pain and is sent to a different doctor to deal with the liver pain, while this is so connected. This is so, like, we know, right, that unhealthy liver impacts the thyroid and so on and so forth, but also the gut, because the digestion doesn't happen at the right level. So this is very important. And also how this thyroid imbalance and the adrenal imbalance impacts then the typical female hormones. What is happening there?
So when we have those imbalances in terms of thyroid hormones, it typically will tell us that there's also some other imbalances happening in the body. One major one is, as I touched on previously, I was talking about the liver. Now, the liver is where all the hormones are metabolized. And the liver is also our body's major detoxifying organ. So any toxic load that comes into the body, the liver is filtering it and then moving it out of the body. Now, its other role is to make hormones. But if that liver is congested and not effectively able to move that toxic load out, it actually can't effectively make hormones. So it's making hormones for the ovaries, which is the female hormones, the estrogen, the progesterone, and testosterone mainly. And then it also makes hormones for the adrenals, and it makes hormones for the thyroid. So typically, they are all interconnected in that when we have thyroid issues, we'll typically also see imbalances in our other hormonal systems.
So this is very interesting, because you mentioned liver a few times and how important it is to cleanse our liver from toxins, and how important it is, to have a healthy liver. I ask you a question because recently I became an advocate of celery juice. I don't know if you heard about it. So the celery juicing first thing in the morning. What is your view on this? I'm very interested, because I hear people report very good things on this, and actually I'm doing it myself. I've been doing it for 2 weeks, and I really have to admit that I do think it works. I don't know if it's just mine, because I know my mind is connected to the rest. But what is your view?
So I think liver is extremely important for us to be cleaning up, and I think that, there's a few different aspects in terms of cleaning up the liver. And one of them is that we want to, first of all, remove the amount of toxins that we're putting into the body. So we want to decrease that toxic load. And then the other thing is that we want to support proper liver function. Now, honestly, I'm not like 100% sure. I haven't done enough research on celery juice to know what components it has in it that help to support proper liver function. I've heard more of like using lemons or using turmeric to help that liver function, and using that to help clean things up and help to support the pathways of detoxification. But potentially, the celery also has some components in there that help to support those proper detoxification pathways, our phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification. I'd have to look at what those constituents are, and I don't know them off the top of my head for sure. But, I would say that any time that we can help to get more fluids in, celery would be, it's a natural product. It would have good minerals. It would have good nutrients in it. So I would say that it probably does help in terms of moving that toxic loads out, but I don't know. I can't tell you 100%. Yeah.
Okay, just one more question around the liver, and I know that women will be interested in this. With alcohol, of course, we don't advocate alcohol as something to have every day, but we all need to live and enjoy ourselves and have nice dinners. So what type of I don't know, white wine, red wine, champagne, what would you say is the probably more gentle on one's liver, And and what would be this kind of limit? Is it a glass? Is it 2 glasses that I'm safe with? Because I think that's important.
I think you've asked, you kind of paused out on me, but I think you're asking about alcohol.
Okay, I'm sorry. Alcohol,
Yes.
yes. So what sort of, which kind of alcohol, and should we have it with water when we drink alcohol? Should we have more water or more food or without food? What would you advise?
Sure.
And we are cutting again. We are really not
be drinking more water. Yeah, for sure we want to be drinking more water if we're consuming alcohol. And I think you just have to be mindful that when you're drinking alcohol, it is congesting up the liver, no matter what form it's in. Ideally, we want to be having the alcohols that have low alcohol sugars, because those alcohol sugars are ones that are probably the most problematic on our system. So it's not just the alcohol, it's also those alcohol sugars. So it comes down to probably the better versions of alcohol would be from wine, or would be actually from like your hard liquor, because it'll have less of those alcohol sugars as opposed to beer. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But is there any difference between white wine and red wine, or doesn't really matter?
I think that's still up for debate. I think that there's studies that show that the red wine does have higher antioxidants, but really your wine isn't where you're getting your antioxidants from. Your antioxidants should be coming from your vegetables. So you're consuming your wine for your antioxidants. And I think like a lot of the more recent studies are kind of showing that it has a bit of that U-shaped effect on our body. So small amounts are okay, but as soon as we get to higher amounts, and that becomes, I think the higher amounts are like 3, I think it's even like 2 to 3 a day is high. And if it goes higher than that, it becomes more problematic. So
okay. No, it makes sense.
Yes, it's always, just being mindful and realizing that you're congesting up the liver, and maybe you got to do a bit more liver support if you choose to drink alcohol. Right?
Okay, so we spoke about, absolutely, and so we spoke about what can get affected, like we spoke about the thyroid, adrenals, and female hormones. Can imagine that a person has big problems with their thyroid, and their adrenals are obviously off whack a bit, and their female hormones therefore are not performing. Is there a way out? Like, do you see women, coming to you with all this sort of problems and really recovering well? Is there kind of hope, because it's quite complex?
Yeah, and for sure. So I think that's a huge misconception when it comes to thyroid. I think that a lot of people are under the impression that if they get diagnosed with a thyroid condition, that they are going to have this problem for the rest of their lives, and they're going to have to be on medications for the rest of their lives. And that is the case if they continue doing everything that they were doing, that put them in the case of having a thyroid condition. But if they are willing to do the work and make the changes and follow a plan, it is possible to completely recover from thyroid conditions. And I've seen that a number of times where patients are coming in and we work together, and it takes some time, and it takes consistency, and it takes being really diligent with the process. But over time, we see all of their blood work fall into normal, ideal ranges, and we also see their symptoms all clear up. So it makes these kind of results.
Okay. Okay. I don't know why it's freezing today.
Oh, is it freezing? Okay. No.
But yes, we heard, I guess we got to hear what you were saying, that if they are, kind of diligent enough, over the time you see the blood works improve and
Yeah.
even falling into this optimal range.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is that very often I, for example, get to work with women who are told they have hypothyroidism, and they say, well, I'm just kind of trying to see if you can help, but probably not, because the doctor already told me that I have, I cannot lose weight because of my thyroid, because this slows down my metabolism, and
Yeah.
I have a lazy thyroid, as they call it, and
Yeah.
that's kind of my destiny. And then they are surprised that suddenly they are losing weight, and they are. And the thyroid is meanwhile still obviously, I'm not healing their thyroid directly, obviously, but I do believe that I support it, but they do lose weight. So exactly as you say, that it's really not like this, that you have this and you now gonna have to deal with it for the rest of your life and nothing can be done. There is actually a lot that can be done, I believe.
Yeah. And then I'll have patients like that too, who are on the medication, and it's probably the similar stuff that what you're seeing is that once we, even if they're on the medication, we can still work on treating the root causes. So they
Exactly.
can
That's
continue
important as
doing
well.
what they're doing, and they can continue doing what they're doing, and we can still address root causes while they're on that medication.
Okay. I really hope and believe that our conversation today is helping a lot of women out there, because trust me that I know a lot of women who have been also told by their doctor that diet has completely no impact on their health in terms of thyroid health, that
Yeah.
it's just continue doing what you are doing and swallow these pills and you will be probably okay. And yes, oh, you put on weight, quite tough, but that's your lazy thyroid. So, it's encouraging to hear what we are hearing from you. There is another thing that's another topic that I wanted to touch upon, again linked to thyroid, adrenals, and female hormones, because I believe that this also affects a very important part of our life, which is our libido,
Yeah.
which is very important in all kind of senses. So again, what can be done around this? And do you see things improving or changing, or and where does it come from? Why does it get affected even?
So, I think that a lot of people are kind of stuck in these beliefs and these systems of thought that as you get older, certain symptoms are just normal. So you think that as they get older, their metabolism is going to slow down, their energy is going to be lower, their libido is going to be lower. And then even as women head into menopause, people are thinking, oh, well, it's normal for them to experience hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, insomnia, right?
Mhm.
And what I'm trying to do in my practice, and probably what you're also doing in your practice, is that we try to uncover where those hormonal imbalances are, because
Mhm.
all of those things that we mentioned, including libido, are just signs that the hormones are out of balance.
Mhm.
Now, how I address that in my practice is that I ask my patients about their periods. So this is for the patients who are previous to the menopausal years, right? So they're in their
Of course.
reproductive years, they're having their periods, and I want to know about their periods. I want to know how long their cycles are, how many days of flow they have. I want to know if they experience any sort of symptoms during their period. And so what we can find out from that, yeah, so what we
Once you
find
ask about
out is that during, I ask them about their periods, and the first day of their period is day 1. And the first half of their cycle is an estrogen dominant part of their cycle. And the second half of their cycle is progesterone dominant. So if they're experiencing symptoms during that first half, then we know that there's an estrogen problem. And estrogen problems are quite common because what we have is we have a number of women that are on synthetic hormones, so birth control pill or hormone replacement therapy. We have, we're taking in hormones. I'm not sure how it is where you live, but we take it in because our animals are given hormones. And so when we eat those animal meats, we're also taking in those hormones. Also, our foods are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and insecticides, and inside our body, they have an estrogen effect on our body. So what happens is that it really throws off our estrogen and puts us into a more estrogen dominant state. And then it leads to us having more of those symptoms during that estrogen dominant state of our period. So we're able to kind of put those two together. And kind of jumping ahead, but if that's the case, then you want to be taking something that helps to remove those synthetic estrogens. And one of them is like a broccoli extract called indinol 3-carbinol, which helps to remove that excess of estrogen in the body. And there's a number of ways we can do that. One of the ways is we want to decrease it, and the other way is that we want to take something in that helps to grab onto those synthetic estrogens and move them out. Now, the other thing that can be happening is that we can have symptoms happening within that second half of our cycle, which is that progesterone part of your cycle. And that progesterone dominant, how that happens is that if we have adrenals that are drained, then our body will take progesterone and make that progesterone into adrenal hormones. And what happens is that we end up with low levels of progesterone. So what we need to do is, I need to work on kind of building up those progesterone levels. But what we also need to do is we also need to work on boosting up that adrenal function at the same time. So, so really libido just falls into one of those categories of hormones are out of balance, and how can we get those hormones back into balance?
Okay. Well, so basically, again, I mean, it may sound complex, but it only confirms, I guess, what we were saying from the beginning, that we are dealing with one big system, and one affects the other, and we need to deal with the whole system, and then with the aim that it will balance itself, right? Because our body knows the healthy state. And
our body wants to be in balance, right?
Exactly. So our body knows where to go, but we need to support it.
We got to set up the right environment for it to do so. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So really very interesting. And now the next thing, because obviously we need libido first, but we also hear, I think, more often than before, at least when I lived in London for 17 years, and I heard it from so many of my friends, that, it wasn't so easy for them to conceive. This seems to be also kind of a bigger problem nowadays than it used to be in the past. So what sort of answer, because usually what people do, they obviously try to get pregnant naturally, and if it doesn't work, they go to a doctor who then sends them to a clinic like in vitro clinic, right? And so there is this hoop jump, if not this, if not natural, then. So what is the naturopathic medicine answer to this? What can be done before going for more radical approach?
Yeah, and we also see this a lot in North America too. So, when patients come into me with this issue, I first of all have to start off with that, it's usually, you know, the female that's coming in to see me to talk about conception. And I do like to start with saying that in terms of conception, I need to be seeing both. I need to be seeing both the male and female partner, because they both play a big role in terms of contributing to conception. So again, this is a big area, but we need to, and I always say that ideally you want to spend about a year before conception cleaning up the body, helping the body to function better. So to me, it's cleaning up diet, trying to remove major toxins from the body, because we know is that there's a lot of toxic loads that can interfere with proper conception. We want to make sure that we're getting all the right nutrients in order to support proper conception, and we can get a lot of those from our food. So it's just eating more good vegetables, healthy vegetables, ideally from an organic source. And then we want to do all of our regular stuff. So cleaning up the body, eating well, drinking lots of water, getting lots of sleep, getting some exercise. So to me, it will be a lot of basics, but it's also a lot of cleaning up of the system to get the body functioning well. And then we want to balance hormones, because if a female's coming in and has irregular periods, we know that their hormones are out of balance, and then that's going to make conception more challenging. So all the stuff I kind of talked about before in terms of balancing out those hormones, getting liver functioning better, making sure you're on all the right nutrients, and then we can increase the chances of conception. There's also a lot of research that shows that acupuncture, along with what we're doing, can also be quite beneficial in increasing those conception rates, and that's what we do within our clinic.
Oh, fantastic. We actually had in the series 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a bit more time ago, we had an acupuncturist talking to us about this practice, about traditional Chinese medicine, and in particular about acupuncture. So I find it very interesting as well, the topic. I tried acupuncture myself. I think it's fantastic. So I definitely advocate this. And I advocate this to my clients as well. And you know I have one question to ask, one additional question to ask on in regards to what you were just talking about, because one of my clients who lives in London told me that she maybe agrees with what we are talking about here, that you need to eat healthier, sleep more, exercise, lower your stress level, and detoxify your body as much as possible in order to raise your chances of getting pregnant. But she said, but please tell me, how does this relate to the people I see? And here, I'm referring to people of maybe kind of lower social class. In UK, she was referring to where people do, they don't necessarily take a good care of their diet. You constantly see them in McDonald's and drinking fizzy drinks and being very overweight, and these women getting pregnant, very kind of easily. Or it seems easily, they have many kids. My answer to this was, and that's what my view on this is, that usually these women are 17 or up to 25, and it's probably the age, it's when we are that young, our body lets us get away with so much, the smoking, drinking, and eating, bad diet. Whilst typically now, women try to conceive when they are over 30, and even into their early 40s, and that's, probably we then need a little bit different approach. I don't know, it's a long introduction to my question, but I wonder what your view on this is. And the screen is frozen, so we will wait for Melina to come back. I think you're back.
Yeah, so Yeah, so I know you kind of cut in and out for me, but I think I got the gist of your question. And I think that I for sure if they're younger, they've accumulated less toxins over their lifetime. I do think that our individual biochemistry is different for every person. I also tend to say the comment isn't fair, right? Because I know that there's a lot of patients who have really worked to lead a healthier life, and then their, I don't know, neighbor leads a really like unhealthy life, and they're saying, well, I do all this stuff and I'm really sick, and then this person, you know, they eat at McDonald's every day, and they seem to be, and smoke and drink, right, and seem to be really healthy, and they don't have the chronic diseases that I have. And you know, and I think that for sure our systems are all different, and how our body can handle and manage toxins is different as well. And so what we want to do is we just want to set our body up so it's able to function the best possible way, and try not to worry about what's happening with everyone else. Just try to do the best thing and for yourself.
Absolutely. No, certainly. Okay, I will ask a question, and I will have to read it out. I have it written down here, but I think there won't be a simple answer. But just to also present to our viewers that it's not just one thing that can change everything, right? So if you were to list in terms of importance as far as promoting and supporting our health is concerned, the following, and these are the health pillars. So nutrition, physical movement, exercise, sleep and relaxation, hydration, we mentioned water, supplementation, and toxin elimination. Can we actually rate this, or would you say, and I'm going ahead here, that it's a little bit of everything, really?
Yeah, I personally believe that those are all your pillars, that they're all important in terms of having an optimal capacity, in terms of optimally functioning body. I think that, you know, like removing any one of them is sort of like removing one of the legs of a table, that you're not going to be able to obtain balance. I think that, you know, it's also this, you know, I would say like you'd start with those pillars that need to be done on a consistent basis, that you need to be doing on a daily basis. So the nutrition, the hydration, the sleep, relaxation, and then trying to think of the other ones that you had mentioned.
And toxins as well, right?
And then, yeah, exactly. And then I guess I would put at the end of the list, it's still important, but then detoxification and supplementation. They're not done all the time, but they are definitely a part of optimal health.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I qualified many years ago as a personal trainer, and now obviously this allows me to discuss exercise more in depth with my clients. Okay. And often I hear that people say, "Oh, my diet maybe is not perfect, but I exercise a lot." Yeah. And that's typical, right? So this is why I said to you, I suspect you won't be able to rate this pillars in the kind of, you know, level of importance, because again, it's like you cannot just exclude one part. So you cannot say, okay, my diet is a bit, you know, high in sugar and not very good, and I enjoy McDonald's, but I exercise and I burn it, because there is more.
Yeah, so I love. Yeah, sorry to cut. I mean, like, but I love this. I've heard this quote before, so it's not my original quote, but I love it. I love that, like, you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet.
You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
That's very true. And
so great exercise program and your nutrition sucks, you're not going to be able to reach that optimal health level. But I always find that really interesting, though, because a lot of people will, you know, because they exercise and because they look a certain way, they think that they're healthy, but that doesn't necessarily make them healthy if we looked at full parameters of what health is. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, and you know what I always talk to my clients about, and what really shocks them is when they hear about this notion of chronic exercise. So really stressing your body a lot, right? Because if a woman goes and runs, you know, performs some sort of very vigorous exercise for longer than an hour, let's say, and does it too often, you know, people feel wonderfully afterwards because they think that this, you know, feel good is just so wonderful. But the feel good happens because you just stressed your every cell of your body so much that your body is trying to now help you out. And also, you know, you mentioned adrenals, and this really exhausts adrenals, right? This sort of chronic exercise. So again, it's a huge topic.
I know, and yeah, exactly, and it's just finding that balance too. And I think, you know, the studies are also showing that as well. Is that like the marathon runner it's not healthier for the body to be running those kind of distances on a consistent basis. It's just too much stress on the body, and so it's wearing the system out. As opposed to doing like a half an hour to 40 minutes of good exercise.
Absolutely. Okay, so what I would now like to ask is something that I'm sure our viewers will be very interested in, because, for example, the reason I study naturopathy, not the naturopathic medicine, is that in Europe we don't have these schools, okay? So they exist in US and Canada, sadly not in Europe. I wouldn't say that we don't have naturopathic doctors at all in Europe, because that would be a lie. Even in my course, there are medical doctors, couple of medical doctors who basically decided to study naturopathy to add to their skill. But it's rare. Okay, it's a first statement to say that it's rare. So what you were talking to us today sounds really interesting, at least to me, you know, hugely interesting. And I bet that there will be many women who will think, okay, I have this symptoms, that symptom, and perhaps, you know, that the fact that last time I did my blood work, I only had TSH checked as far as my thyroid is concerned and nothing else, is something I should look into. So I know you run a big clinic, but it's obviously over in Canada. I work online, for example, and I work in clients. I'm originally from Poland. I do work with people from Poland, and I lived in UK for 17 years, so again, close to my heart, and I'm based in Portugal at the moment. So how about you? Do you actually, can someone, I don't know, do the test and send them to you and then speak to you online, and can they receive any sort of treatment? How would that work?
So there's a few different avenues. One is that I have a number of online courses. So if you're interested in what I do, those online courses are excellent ways, and I'll be in those courses to answer people's questions. And I have one on like healing the gut. I have one on detoxification. I have one on balancing the thyroid. And I also have another one that follows my book about building a healthy child. So that's one way. And then another way would be to I can do one-on-one Skype visits. So similar to what we're doing now, and we can do that through Skype, or I haven't done Facebook Live, but I guess that's an option too.
Excellent. Okay, so please, remember to include in our comment section the links to the book and certainly the courses. I already included but no, not in this post, in another one. But we will do your website as well, so people can connect should they wish to. my I'm enjoying it so much. I could be forever tonight, but
Yeah.
I know, we have limited time. But what I try to do, Melina, with every single time when I have a guest, I try to ask them for some tips for the people watching us, because we know, and I also do this other series of live when Facebook Live, when I try to help with some tips for achieving goals, health and well-being goals. And one of the things I spoke about last week was that everything, is a kind of small steps approach, right? So progress, not perfection, because we spoke about a lot today, and we spoke about all these health pillars. And it would be wonderful if one wakes up tomorrow and suddenly says, okay, now I'm gonna sleep 8 hours a day, drink so much water, remove all the sugar from my diet, alcohol and whatnot. It would probably last for 2 days, if that. So we need to be how to say, we need to be taking life into considerations, but also we need to help people to want to make these changes, to enable them to, and to show them that it's easy, that little things can be done, little changes, and that changes something, and then this leads you to making another change. So that's why I always ask my guests to leave our viewers with 3 top tips. I call them top tips, something that can be easily and immediately implemented. So, one wakes up tomorrow and they can straight away start to add it into their daily routine. What would these tips from you be?
So these are, I would say, the tips I would give would be the simple ones that you need to be doing on a consistent basis in order to really get results. One of them is nutrition, so avoiding those major inflammatory foods, which is wheat, cow's dairy, and sugar. Eliminating those from the diet. And some people will say that's challenging, and some people will say I'm already doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one is to drink about 2 liters of filtered water per day. So, and I say filtered because we want to make sure that we take out any of those impurities or microbes from and chlorine or fluoride from that water. And that's something that we constantly need to do. We need to always be doing that on a consistent basis. And so my third is kind of going between 2, but I think that what we know about sleep is that we need sleep in order to recharge that battery, and we need good solid deep sleep in order for our whole hormonal system to function well, and for our body to be able to heal and detox. And so I think that we got to make sleep a priority. I think that a lot of people think that they can cheat that system. They're like, oh, well, I can function just fine on 5 hours of sleep. But eventually that sort of stuff catches up with you because your system is just not functioning at that optimal capacity. So I think as adults, we do need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. So those are going to be my 3 that I think that we all need to be doing on a consistent basis.
It's really good. Thank you so much. And I tell you, referring to what you just said about that people say, oh, I sleep less and I feel absolutely fine. I hear it from people very often, but not also from clients. I hear it from friends even, like, oh, you don't eat wheat or dairy, but I'm absolutely okay with these things. I'm absolutely okay. Or, okay, one should aim for 7 hours of sleep, but I'm totally fine with 5 hours. And then water as well, like, okay. I always say to people, have you tried doing these things? Because very often, and I get this feedback, people then go, oh, I didn't know this is how I'm supposed to feel. I just
Yeah,
never
exactly.
felt like I never had a flat stomach. I thought that it's me, that I will always be bloated after a meal. And then suddenly they say, I had a meal, I really had a lot to eat, and my stomach stayed flat, and I feel fine. I don't want to go to sleep now. Or they wake up in the morning after, you know, longer night than 5 hours, and they say, wow, the energy I got from this. Or, you know, they report to me, they start drinking more water, and they report that either their migraines, not completely
Yes.
maybe disappeared, but definitely subsided, or that they thought, they were saying, oh, I was drinking all these herbal teas for because I felt constipated a lot, and now I don't. So I do agree with each and every single tip of yours, and I also think that yes, that we are all, as you said, biologically unique, so not all the things will work equally for each and single one of us. And this is why I always, you know, encourage people to work. Of course, it's my profession, so I would do that. But health coach is someone who is there to kind of customize, to you know, to say, okay, we will work with you. It's not that, so people like it, and they say it also works better than dietitian, because in this respect, that it's not just me saying do this and see you in a month, but I'm there with them.
Yeah,
we have
that's great.
a few viewers with us, and I just wanted, before we finish, I wanted to check if any of the ladies here want to ask any question or have any comment. Usually people feel very shy during the sessions, but if you do have question, would be a good time to ask. If not, as I said, we will be answering the questions if they appear in the comment section, because usually, you know, that the most contact I get after the live session. So no questions for now. So huge thanks to Dr. Roberts for being with us today. Really a mine of amazing information. I really truly enjoyed it. I think that you shared so much with our viewers, and I really hope, and not only hope, I'm sure that even this, you know, hearing this, what you were talking about, will help many women out there, because I bet you some of the women will go back to their doctor and say, no, it's not just like this. I need to know more. Can we run another test? I want to be sure. And if your doctor says no, because, for example, in UK the doctor will say no, because they are only allowed on NHS to run certain tests, then just go and pay for them. It's really worth it, because it's not that expensive, and it can change your life. So don't be shy. Okay, thank you so very much, and thank you to every single person watching us tonight, and thank you to those that will be watching us later. And thank you, Dr. Roberts, and it was a great pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anna, for having me. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.